I kind of want to circle back to that 2017 season because you're crushing it on the mound, but then the injuries started to kind of pile up a little bit. You needed surgery to repair a partial UCL tear in your throwing arm, and then there was a cyst in your left femur. That also happened to be around the time where the Miami Marlins drafted you in the 26th round of the MLB draft. So, like, Gunner, like you're realizing like you need to have surgery, and then you're getting drafted. Like, take us back to that moment. What's going on like in your mind?
So I guess I'll start with the cyst. The cyst actually was something that we found in high school. It was actually the reason I didn't play my high school year of my senior season of football. So just to make a long story short, found it. I was practicing. We were doing it was summer workouts. So I'm running routes and doing baseball stuff, and just kind of overload on work, and was having like some sharp pain in my leg. Long story short, we go get a X-ray, and we find this looks like a tennis ball in the middle of my femur. And so obviously they say tumor, and that leads you down a whole nother rabbit hole. End up finding out that it's a benign bone cyst, femur still healthy. Basically, just like, hey, it's a little more maybe compromised than the normal femur, but it's the strongest bone in the body. Like, it's fine. If you are at that point, I was committed to play baseball at UL, and it was like, if baseball is what you want to do, it may be smart to not play football, and so decided to not do that. But really, that was just like kind of, hey, watch it. If there's no pain, if you're asymptomatic, you should be fine. And then usually those benign bone cysts run their life cycle is a handful of years, and usually they actually rupture and calcify. So you can think of it like a bone breaking in a way from the inside out. And so when they rupture, the fluid drains, and then it just calcifies like a broken bone would, and almost heals itself. So that's kind of what we thought it would do. So we just kind of watched it. When we got to my junior year, all the front offices wanted updated images for the draft. So got updated images towards the end of the year, right before the draft, and it had doubled in size. It would basically have taken over my whole femur. And so, obviously that was a little bit of a shock. And then, also I had been dealing with the arm thing basically all year. I actually think, looking back on it now, I'm pretty sure I heard it in our last spring scrimmage before the season started. And, just kind of velocity was fine for the most part. And, at the beginning of the year, and I felt like I could command my pitches, and obviously got off to a great start and was having a great year, and just almost kind of like pushed it away. You didn't even want to think about it in a way, and just dealt with it. Some weeks were okay, some weeks were really bad, but just kind of managed it. Later in the season, had a start where I got a little extended and threw a good amount of pitches, and that was like probably a week or two before the conference tournament. And then went into the conference tournament and was warming up to face Georgia Southern. And I looked at Daniel Freeman at the time. I mean, I was like, I'm not good. Like, something's not right. And at that point, I kind of knew. And we were 15 minutes from first pitch. And I walked in and looked at our trainer, Brian, and was just like, look, get a heating pad, give me some Advil, give me something. I'm going to gut this thing out, but something's not right. And I think I was throwing like 80, 82 that game, or 78 to 82. Like, I was just flipping them up there. Like I said, tricking them. I got lucky and tricked them for 7 or 8 innings. I think it was 7, and gave us a chance to win. But after that start, just got worse, continued to get worse. Kind of rumors started swirling, and people were calling my high school coach, calling all kind of different people, cross checkers and front offices, trying to figure out if I had anything wrong. And at that point, I didn't have an MRI. And so, my answer was always no. I'm having some forearm tightness, but I didn't really know. And then got into draft day, and obviously with the leg and the arm, ended up sliding into kind of later in the top 10 rounds, which going in just thought was going to be more, maybe, or at least I had my mindset more on like 3 to 6. And so just ended up had a couple negotiations with a couple teams, the Dodgers, some other teams, and then after that second day, basically just told my agents, called Coach Rowe, and was just like, I'm coming back, you know. And then obviously decided to go get the MRI. And then once I got the MRI, figured out I had to have surgery on that. And then I was basically like, you know, let's knock this leg out while we're at it. You know, I'm obviously going to miss the year. Dr. Marco in the office after our maybe second or third visit, there's me and my mom in there, and he's like, I've never had a case like yours. Like, I've never had a situation where a male at your age and the cyst grows or doubles in size. And so there wasn't really like a surgery. There wasn't anything really we could do necessarily, or that had been done, if you will. And so I'm like Googling stuff over the course of like 2 or 3 months where these visits are spread out. And I told him, I'm like, look, I know you're not supposed to Google, you know, what you got wrong with you, but I Googled it, and I'm just going to throw this out there, but like, can we just put a rod in it? Like, can we just drive a rod in it like it was a fracture or something? And he's sitting there and he's looking at me and he's like, that's actually not a bad idea. And so literally that's how we decided what we were going to do. And I went into surgery like 2 weeks later, and I mean, my whole left femur, I got a metal rod from hip to knee. And so it's been good ever since.
Dr. Leger.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Oh man, that's insane, dude. I mean, that's like you might like your mind, like how does your mind not race a million miles an hour when you're going back and forth? And then the Dr. Google thing, I know that's like one of the worst things we could do, but it's so tempting. Like when you want to know something, obviously, and you're waiting, you want to have some semblance of peace or an answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's even, like I said, he's one of the leaders in the space. And I mean, he's looking at me like kind of scratching his head. And so I think we were all just kind of like, we're going to have to figure something out. And it's going to almost kind of be like a one-of-one deal. And so he was all in for it. And I was like, let's give it a shot. And so it worked out. But yeah, that year, man, that year was crazy. Just the ups and downs emotionally, and just the tough thing was just dealing with, like I said, kind of pushing it off, almost knowing something was wrong with with my arm. And you just push it off and push it off because, you work your whole life to get really to that point personally, and kind of achieve that goal of going into pro ball and getting drafted and doing all that stuff. And, like I said, I was lucky enough at that point to be put in and put myself in some situations to have success and be in front of the right people. And it kind of checked all the boxes, and then was having a really good junior year, which obviously is important as well. So it was a roller coaster, no doubt about it.
Would you say that part of the driving force of pushing things off and continuing just to play through the injuries was maybe the fear of not being able to return to form?
Um, a little bit. I think it honestly made it tougher for me because I was pitching the best I had ever had in my life, really, and so it's like you feel hurt, but you're not pitching hurt. And then, like I said, I was on the 10-yard line looking in to everything that I'd kind of envisioned, all the way back to being 12 years old. And so um, I think just dealing with that, obviously hindsight's 2020. I wish I'd have just spoke up, but you live and you learn. And honestly, I think with kind of how the next few years of my life played out and what happened to Coach Robe, and just if I don't get hurt, I'm probably not there. And just those next few years look a little different. And my relationship with him probably looks a little different. And to be honest with you, I don't know that maybe I'm sitting here today as the pitching coach if that goes a little different. So I think everything happens for a reason, and I think really that injury in that year was kind of the start of like a 4 or 5 year, just a little bit of a roller coaster ride where you find yourself and you learn to deal with things. And Coach Robe really was the first big loss I'd ever had in my life. That someone I was really close with and personal too. I still have both sets of grandparents, obviously both my parents, and um, had my best friend's mother had passed when I was in high school, so that was a big loss. But outside of that, like Coach Robe was like another dad to me, especially after those 2 years I spent with him after my junior year. So really, that from 2017 to probably to COVID, when I got released, there's just a lot of ups and downs. So you kind of figure yourself out pretty quick.